Good morning. It's Saturday. I'm in the office. You know what that means. The Saturday morning hustle, because we hustle on Saturday. Today, I'm going to tell you the perfect time to launch that thing you've been wanting to do, that you've been waiting to do, that you've been holding off to on. Now is the time to do it. The perfect time to start anything is, spoiler alert, now, right now, today. No more waiting. I'm going to go into complete details on the podcast today about why you should be launching that thing you want to do right now. Not waiting, not holding off, not making excuses. So check out the podcast today. iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Anchor app, iHeartRadio, Podchaser, YouTube, anywhere you find great podcasts. We're going to talk about launching that thing you want to do that you've been waiting for. That's right. We're going to talk about that on the podcast today. Check it out. I'm going to record it right now. Good morning. It's Saturday. I'm in the office. You know what that means. The Saturday morning hustle. We hustle on Saturday because greatness does not happen Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. The next big thing is not coming along in the office. It's happening on the weekends, coming in early, staying late, etc. You got to hustle. You got to grind. You have to work smart and work hard to earn it. Today, we're talking about the perfect time to launch that thing you've been thinking about, that plan, that project, that side hustle, that business, that brand, album, the piece of art, the NFT, whatever it is that you've been thinking about doing, the thing that you want to do, the thing that you have been saying, I'm going to do that someday. The time to do it is right now. Today is the perfect time. Why? Because there is no such thing as a perfect time. There is no perfect time to do anything. So the best time to do it is now. Now, you've heard this saying plenty of times in your life, right? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. What that means is, of course, you would like things to already be in place, but they are not. And so the only thing you can do about it, your best response when your business isn't up and running, when your startup hasn't happened, when your side hustle isn't a thing, when something is just an idea and has not become a reality, no matter what that pursuit is, the perfect time to do it was 20 years ago. You didn't do it then. So the second best time is now. First of all, there is no perfect situation. You're never going to get to perfect. That's holding you back. It's a hindrance. It's something in your head that is unrealistic. So when you're waiting for the perfect time, you're just procrastinating. You're just fooling yourself. It's fear holding you back. You can't ever be great if you're afraid of the what ifs. What ifs are keeping you from going to this is perfect. Let's go. So I'm declaring today as close to perfect as you're going to get. And it doesn't matter what your situation is. It doesn't matter what you're working on. It doesn't matter what it is you're trying to do. Today is as good as any because it hasn't been launched yet, and you will never find the perfect time. Also, tomorrow isn't guaranteed to any of us. And that can be as simple as how your current job or situation, financial or otherwise, is happening, all the way through the fact that we're not guaranteed we're going to be here on this planet tomorrow. And I hate to bring the conversation down a little bit. I like to be very upbeat and motivational on the Saturday morning hustle. But the reality is tomorrow isn't guaranteed for anyone. So every time you put off that thing that's important to you, not just simply doing something, but something that's important to you, something you have passion for, something that you would like to change your life and maybe even mold your life around. If you're going to start a business, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to go from having a day job to your own job, whether it's as an artist, a musician, a social media influencer, or a photographer, or an entrepreneur like myself, you have to make changes to your life. You have to do these things, and it can't be half-ass, and you can't wait until I have a huge pension to fall back on, or I have a retirement fund, or I can cash in my Social Security. Those, again, are all excuses, especially if you're under 60, if you're under 50, if you're under 40, if you're under 30. Do not think in chunks of, I can do that when I retire. Absolutely think about what you need to do now, today, that gives you fulfillment, that you have passion for, drive for, that you can change your life to the way you want to live it, not living the way other people want you to live, not your parents' expectations, not society's expectations. And I'm not talking crazy. I'm not talking about going off into the woods and living by yourself and living off berries and twigs for the rest of your life. I am talking about maybe living a more conservative lifestyle in your spending and things you do in order for the way you earn money, the way that you spend your time and money is different and more fulfilling and satisfying for you. And it could work out if you follow that passion, if you follow that drive, if you're willing to put the hustle in, work smart, work hard, all the things we talk about on this podcast, that it turns out better, maybe much better, maybe 10 times better, maybe 100 times better, maybe 1,000,000 times better than the safe current status quo. So in order to go from where you are today to that thing that could be 1,000,000 times better, or at the very least something you have passion for, drive for, that you want deep inside to do every single day, if you're going to get up and not go to work, but enjoy what you do, thus never working a day in your life. Another famous saying about following your heart and your pursuits. Today is the day to do it, because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. And again, like I said just a few minutes before I started that little mini rant here in the conversation, I like to stay upbeat. I like to stay positive. I like to stay motivated. But you do need to learn lessons in life. And some of the greatest, absolutely probably the biggest lesson you can learn in life is when we lose someone that's important to us, when someone passes away. And the reason I'm motivated to have this conversation with you today is two exact reasons for that. I have a dear, dear friend who she just lost her father, and she's grieving for that now. And she's going through the process of having to lose her father, and then going through a burial and a funeral, and then now actually be taking care of all of the things, legal and banking and otherwise, that come with having to have your parent pass away. Condolences to her, and I have been speaking to her directly for this last week, and I'm thinking about her very much. But she recently left her day job, left the 9 to 5 in order to pursue the things she had passion for 100%. Now, life has thrown this curveball towards her. These are things out of our control. You cannot ignore the fact that these things happen, and that life will happen around you, and we will lose people who are greatly important to us. And tomorrow isn't guaranteed for us either. Also, this is the anniversary of the passing of a good friend of mine that happened in June of 2018, someone that I worked with closely, someone that I knew from our time at 1219 Creative when we were building that community together. And she passed away again in 2018. This week was reminded of that through some of my past social media posts. And she was someone who was an entrepreneur, was pursuing greater things, was building things around her, was a huge give back person, extremely positive, extremely motivating, always pushing others, always giving. There were life lessons from her that we can all take away. And in fact, I'm going to end this video and this podcast, the end of this conversation, I'm going to play a clip from 2018 when I was discussing on the Saturday Morning Hustle losing that particular individual. And in both cases, we have to realize that tomorrow isn't guaranteed, whether it's for us specifically or important people around us. And so waiting, holding, putting off, procrastinating, the hold until it's perfect has to be thrown in the trash. You have to ignore it, and you have to move forward. There is no perfect time. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. Your competition is not waiting. So whenever it is that you launch that business, that side hustle, that idea that's going to become a product or service, that's going to become a business, someone else is already out there doing it. You have to start competing somehow. You can only give them so much head start. They're not waiting on you, so you can't wait on a perfect launch. You have to get out and start competing. Also have to start having successes and making mistakes. You have to learn your lessons along the way. You have to figure things out. It won't happen. You won't figure out how to be successful until you have those early failures. Failures, setbacks, negative outcomes, unexpected outcomes are all part of the process of how we become successful. You can't become successful until you begin that process. You can't begin that process until you start. You can't start if you're waiting on perfect. And then another example of how things can change in our lives. A couple of years ago, if I'd have told you that one of the things you need to be considering is a global pandemic, you would have thought I was crazy. That's something that only happens in a movie. Obviously, we've all lived through the last couple of years of COVID-19 affecting business and other things in that space. So your job, your side hustle, your business has probably been affected. Plenty of businesses were closed, have never come back because of COVID-19. If you wait for the perfect time, something like that, again, out of your control, could come along and change the game, change the rules, change how we are able to do things. And you might wait so long you can't get over that hurdle, that thing that has now changed things dramatically. So stop thinking and start doing, because a global pandemic, World War III, or just the economy of the United States crashing, something of that nature, changes in laws, changes in technology, etc., could end up making the idea you have either highly valuable, you need to be in the market and do it, or completely zero value, and you won't be able to ever start. So avoid those things by getting started. A lot of people are doing this right now. They're calling it the Great Resignation. I don't necessarily think I believe that phrase a lot, but you've heard that, right? The Great Resignation. A lot of people who lost their jobs, were laid off, or maybe their hours were cut, or their jobs were changed because of the limitations, restrictions of COVID-19. Now going back to the office from working at home, working virtual, things of that nature. People are opting to not do traditional jobs as much, to maybe start their own business or take their side hustle full-time, etc. You might be one of these people. The COVID-19 situation forced a lot of that to happen. That's why it's all happening at once, because we all went through this at the same time. You can make those changes in your life anytime you want. You don't have to wait for a massive global reset in order to do something different if that is what you want. Because in 2022, things are different than they were in 2020, but absolutely things were different than they were in 2000 and 1985 and 1960 and 1940. How business gets done, how we work, how we achieve success is different today than it has ever been, and is more in your control as to what the definition of success is, more now than it has ever been. How you define what success is and how you define your personal happiness, your fulfillment, the thing that makes you want to get up every morning and do something, the thing that makes you fulfilled at the end of the day, that you go to bed happy, satisfied, the thing that you're proud to discuss with your family, friends, and acquaintances, etc. That, whether it's the type of work you do, who you work for, your lifestyle it affords you, the ability to do things around your health, your mental health, your family, artistic expression, whatever it is, you have more control over that today, defining success and personal happiness, than you've ever had in the history of the world. So why not take advantage of it if that is something you've been thinking about, something that drives you, something that you have the passion to do and the willingness to put in that work? You need both of them. You need passion, but you need drive as well. You have to understand it's not easy and it's not simple. Again, going back to the conversation, you'll make more mistakes, you'll get more no's and yeses. You'll learn the lessons from failures, setbacks, etc. You have to be able to do that. You have to be able to put yourself out there, put the work in, learn the lessons, get the setbacks, push forward again, all of that. You know that. If you're listening to this podcast, you know that. If you're listening to this podcast, you understand what I'm saying. So today is the day to do it. Tomorrow isn't guaranteed, but maybe you want to wait till tomorrow. Just kidding. You can't wait till tomorrow. Today is the day. We're going to do this. But I will tell you that as soon as possible is the time to launch the thing you want to do. If it's important to you, you should be doing it as soon as possible. And that means today. It might mean tomorrow or a slight bit in the future. Now, let me explain to that, because it sounds counter to everything I've just been telling you. Just because you have an idea, just because there's something you want to do, doesn't mean that it's ready to go. There's very much an amount of work that needs to be done before it happens. That's working smart. Don't just go quit your job just because you think you'd be a great artist and you haven't painted a picture or taken a photograph or sculpted anything ever in your life. Don't think you're going to make an NBA team when you couldn't make your high school basketball team. And now you're 5 or 10 years later and you're out of shape. You haven't shot a basket in 10 years. Don't think that you're going to become the next great TikTok influencer at 50 with no ability to dance or do something interesting. Have some common sense. Make a plan. Work smart, but not using this as an excuse to fail to launch. This is the key. So I told you today is the day. I told you ASAP, as soon as possible, is important, but you do need to have your ducks in a row to a certain point. You do need to work smart. You do need to put things in place, have some planning, have some ideas, understand if it's a business, how it's going to compete, how you're going to finance it, what are the realities, not just simply because you want it, just not simply because you think you'll be good at it. What is the reality behind it? If you want to be the next great chef, you've better been working in the food industry up to this point, because you're not going to do it magically overnight. Or if you're a home chef who wants to transition, there are ways to do it, steps to do it. There's equipment necessary. There's training, there's licensing, there's expertise, etc. There's all kinds of things that come with taking something that's a side hustle, a pursuit, and making it your full time. There are smart steps to do that. There are smart ways to launch a business, to launch a side hustle, to take your hobby of art or music or acting or podcasting or anything else into a professional realm. And there are a billion resources on the internet. This goes back to how 2022 is going to give you more control of this process than ever before. There are a billion resources for you to figure out the smart way to transition from wherever you are today, from simply a basic idea all the way through. This is ready to launch and go out and start competing well enough to start learning those early lessons, make those adjustments, etc. You don't have to come out of the box ready to just knock the competition out. That's perfect. We've already established perfect doesn't happen, but you can't be 1% prepared. Somewhere in between, you need to prepare enough to be able to launch enough to get started and get those early returns, the early feedback. So don't start with 1% aligned, 1% prepared. If you're at 1%, if you're just in an idea phase, you have to work towards 50, 60, 70, 80% prepared. That work is what we're talking about today. The work, the logistics, the information, the strategy, the collaborators, the elements you need. Is it equipment? Is it technology? Is it people? Is it opportunity? Is it, if you're going to write a book, you got to start with page 1. You start with a blank page and you got to start with an outline and you just start working. If you're going to launch a business, you have to understand the business model, who you're competing with, competitive analysis. You have to understand strengths and weaknesses, position, all those great things too. You need to have enough in place to have a realistic launch. Now, it sounds like I'm backpedaling on, I told you should launch today. Now I'm telling you don't launch yet. Here's the difference. If you don't have enough to launch, you have to actively be working and filling in those gaps, giving you from 1% to 50 to 60, 70, 80%. What it needs to be. You have to identify what it needs, those needs are, and then fulfill those needs. If you're working towards those things to get into the market, to get launched, to make your idea a reality as soon as possible, this is why we're discussing as soon as possible. If you're working from, I have nothing, but I need these certain things to launch as soon as possible. If you're actively working towards it, this is the key. If you're working towards a proper launch, if you're working towards taking something that is not real yet to real, if you're putting that work in, not so that you can continue to wait for perfect, but because you're going to go ahead without waiting for perfect, then that's the effort necessary. So be smart, work smart, take control of the process, drive the process by actively engaging in the information you need, the technology you need, the pieces you need, whatever it is that is keeping you from being real and ready to launch. Find and fix, solve problems, answer questions, get advice. Again, the internet is full of great examples. There's a ton of terrible examples too, and I can't tell you which ones are which. You have to use your own common sense, but reach out to people with experience. Reach out to people who've done it before. Reach out to people who you can trust to give you feedback on your ideas. Don't let them talk you out of your dream, but also don't launch your dream in something that is unrealistic and cannot ever happen. It goes back to, I'm never going to make the Thunder NBA roster, even though I was a pretty decent little baller in 7th and 8th grade. You know what I'm saying? There are things that can happen and things that can't happen. There's a gap between them. If that gap is realistic, you can fill that gap, backfill that gap so that you can launch, you can get in the world, you can do things. You can only do that if you work at it, if you control the process, you put the effort in, you stack up the elements necessary, and then launch. If you're doing it with the idea of launching as soon as possible, get into the world, and ignoring the idea of waiting for perfect, then you're on the right path. So do that. Follow that path. Go from idea, from basics, from could this work? Learn, gain the information, gain the control of the process. Inform yourself, put your allies together, create collaborators, put yourself in the best position to be successful. This is all working smart. Then get launched and work hard. It's going to be hard. More setbacks than positives, more failures than wins, more no's than yeses. Yes, more no's than yeses. I was afraid I said that backwards. I said it right. You'll hear more no's than yeses. The yeses are important or key. You learn from the no's, etc. You have to do all that, and you have to launch that process in order to launch the real thing. If you're working on that and working towards a goal and working towards launching as soon as possible, it's okay you haven't launched yet because you're doing the work. Before the work, you're being smart. But once you get launched, you're going to have to put the work in. So control the process, follow the path, listen to your heart. If this is what you want to do for the rest of your life, if this is what you want to do that's going to be important enough where you can quit the day job or replace an income stream or do something else that's beneficial that makes your heart happy, follow your heart, but listen to your head. Be smart about it. Put the proper things in place that I just described in order for it to be successful, not simply because you have a dream, but because you have a dream you pursued properly in order to build structure, system, etc., in order for it to actually work. Don't do something because you want to do it. Do something because you're following your heart and your head. Be smart about it and listen to your gut. I tell you every time that I've listened to my gut when it comes to business, when it comes to decision making, when I get to look back 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 weeks, 5 days, 5 years later, my gut. I should do this. I shouldn't do this. I should partner with this person. I shouldn't. This is a good client of mine. This is not a good client. This is a good path for me to take. My gut was always right. You don't listen to your gut because the little voice in the back of your head says, maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not the one. It's the same voice that's telling you wait for perfect to launch. Ignore that voice. Listen to your gut. Listen to the initial reaction to, will this work? Do I want to work with this person? Is this the path I want to take? Is this the time to do it? Your gut is typically right. Now that you're ready to launch, it's a time for a transition. You might have a day job, but you're going to transition. You might become a day job with a side hustle. You might take a part-time job and make it a full-time job. It might be something that has been a hobby that you want to turn into a career. You need to do your research and create a plan. This goes back to being smart. Work smart. Do your research. Use the internet. Use the tools. Reach out to people who have experience. Do all of these things to do your research and craft a plan that is very logical and able to be successful. Utilize all those assets you can, especially if you can reach out to people that you trust their opinion, value, and that they've had expertise and success that you want to mimic and that you want to bring along for yourself. Reach out to those people, utilize your assets, utilize the information that's out in the world. Watch the examples of people that are being successful in the way you want to be successful, the people that are doing it the best. Find out how they're doing it, not just what they're doing, but how they're doing it, not just what they talk about, what they do, their actions, and then utilize as many of those as possible for yourself. But you have to research, you have to make a plan, you have to work smart, you have to put these things into place. If you can use it as a side hustle, if you can kind of test the waters and figure out if things can work and learn some of those early mistakes and learn some of those lessons while keeping the day job for the safety, the comfort, for the income, to keeping your family fed and all those things, especially in this time of inflation. Don't be unrealistic and don't be quick to quit your job and understand if you are going to go the side hustle route, the intent of the side hustle is to replace the day job when it becomes smart to do so, not when it's perfect, but when it's smart. So find ways to collaborate, find ways to add to what you're already doing, find ways to test and learn lessons while you're doing the things that's paying the bills. Again, if you're pursuing a launch, if you're pursuing a transition, if you take calculated risk. They say no guts, no glory, and it's absolutely true in my experience. The only way to gain success is to take risk, but that doesn't mean to do crazy random stuff. Take calculated risk. Take educated risk. You have to take risk in order to see reward. You will not be successful without taking risk, but don't do something random or harsh or unplanned or unresearched. Do things that make sense because you've been doing this work, you've been learning, you've been trying things, you've been learning your lessons, you've been adapting, adjusting. Then when it comes time to make a push, this is where you have to take risk. You have to spend money. You have to quit the day job. You have to lease an office. You have to buy a piece of equipment. You have to maybe speak on your podcast about a topic you haven't spoke about before. You have to take some sort of risk. And I can tell you in my life, even the past 10 years with the Golden Group, when we launched the Golden Group, it was leaving corporate America to start my own business. I had some experience in it, so it wasn't a crazy risk, but it still was a risk. I also used a completely different business model than I'd done in the past, partnering with Felicity and Sean and eventually Pritch, and a situation that was a little bit out of my control. Again, something I had not done in the past. I took some risk. I can also tell you we started that company at Felicity and Sean's kitchen table. It was definitely a work from home scenario for a while we figured things out. We were launched. We didn't have day jobs. We were fully committed to it, but we also weren't paying for an office, weren't paying for equipment and fancy things like that. We did not have a lot of overhead, very minimal overhead while we figured some things out. Eventually, we had to lease the office, which was 1219 Creative. That was a risk to have a lease that we were committed to pay rent every month for a number of years, to provide furniture and equipment and electricity and insurance and all the things that come with running with business. That was a risk, but our business doubled, tripled, quadrupled almost immediately because we put ourselves in a better position to be a professional organization that people could trust and rely on and respect, because we had a track record of work, we had client referrals, and we had a space that was legitimate, recognized that a client could come to work in our space. There were advantages to having a place that was multifunctional, etc. We took the risk. We saw the reward. The same thing here when 1219 went away, coming over to Project 3810, partnering with the good people over here, being involved with the incubator, shifting gears and moving into this type of situation with different partners that I did not know at the time. I didn't know if it would work or not, but I had to take that risk in order to continue down the path that we'd already established. And it's worked out really well. We've had a great relationship. So risk and reward is necessary. Do it for the right reasons. Again, don't do random stuff. Don't take risk just in order to take risk. Don't be a jackass, as in the guys on the TV and the films that hurt each other all the time. Don't be jackasses who take risk just because it's funny or silly or why the hell not, or how bad can it hurt. But instead, take calculated, smart risk in order to gain success, because you're elevating an idea to a product or service, your product or service to a business offering to a brand, etc. If you can elevate your game, if you can increase your audience potential, if you can maybe add new audiences, new potentials, new things to what you're doing because you take the risk, because you make the investment. Sometimes it's time, sometimes it's money, sometimes it's attention, sometimes it's putting your reputation on the line, sometimes it's taking on a challenge you haven't done before and taking the risk that you could fail, that the whole thing could fall apart, that there's no return on your investment, that you will be put in a completely different position moving forward that you didn't anticipate. All of that risk is necessary in order to get to that next level. We talk about it all the time on this podcast. Next big thing, next level. It's not 9 to 5. It's not Monday through Friday. And it absolutely is not without risk. But take calculated risk. Now that you've done that, now that you've launched, now that you're working, you're going to have to work hard. Being an entrepreneur, business owner, being a full-time artist, a musician, a self-brand, whatever it is you're doing with yourself, whatever it is you've taken this risk to do, whatever change you're going to make, that thing you're going to pursue, that you're going to commit to, that you're going to have heart for, passion for. It's going to change your life. It's going to be hard. I'm telling you right now, how many times have I told you so far? More setbacks than advances, more negatives than positives, more no's than yes. But it's a learning process if you work hard. Right attitude, willingness to learn, and work hard. It's just that simple. Sorry, I wish I could tell you the shortcut, the easy thing. Anyone who tells you there's an easy way to do it, a shortcut, or 3 simple steps, they're just lying to you. They're probably trying to take some money from you, or it's some other way of getting over on you. It's going to be hard work. But if you have put the work in to get from 0 to 50 to 70 to 80% of what you need, if you've launched, if you're paying attention to how to learn through the process, if you take calculated risk and you put the effort in, and then you work hard, effort, come in early, stay late, last one out, first one in, hustle on Saturday, etc., the potential for you to create the thing that your life changes from and that you have heart and passion and soul for, that you want to do every single day for the rest of your life, goes way, way up. You define success. You define happiness. You get to set the rules if you take the risk, make them smart risk, then are willing to work. So get ready, get launched, get working. Stop waiting for perfect. There's no such thing. Today is the day. I'm going to end today's conversation with a clip from the social media post, the Saturday Morning Hustle video that I made back in 2018 when we lost our friend Annie Lillard to a drunk driver. They referenced her earlier about how positive and motivational she was and still is to a lot of people. So I'm going to play that clip here to end the conversation today. Appreciate you guys so much. Be safe out there. Take care of yourself. Take care of other people. Take care and pay attention to the people that are important to you and around you. Please, I want to see you again next week on the Saturday Morning Hustle. I'm pulling for you. I'm praying for you. I'm hoping for you. I'm here to help you. We'll see you again next week. Good morning. It's Saturday. I'm at the office about to go in at Saturday Morning Hustle. This week was a little bit harder than the rest. I lost a good friend to a drunk driver this week in a really tragic accident. These Saturday Morning Hustle videos are about inspiring and motivating and help you chase your goals and reach your dreams. And it's really hard to be positive today when something this bad happens. But my friend Annie, that's who she was. She was the most positive person I ever met. And so I can't honor Annie by being negative or being sad or not getting up and getting on my hustle like I do every week, because that's not what she would want for me. Not what she wants for you either. So everyone, please do what Annie would do. Go out in the world, do something nice, something positive for someone else. Do someone a favor, help someone, pay it forward. Do what Annie would do this week and honor her memory. We lost our friend Annie to the tragedy of drunk driving. Please don't be so stupid, so selfish, and so idiotic to drink too much, get behind the wheel. You have options. Right? Call a friend, call an Uber, take a cab. There are things you can do. Please not drink and drive.